But we are being spoiled today. When I saw these two clashing live on the ladder, I had to stream the game. Boys, gals, and non-binary pals, welcome back to the AoE 4 action on Canal. We are joined by Team Liquid's Demu in the red, playing as the Japanese. And in his way, an absolute beast in the competitive scene, a familiar face to go alongside him. It is the Spaniard Lucifron in the yellow as the Mongols. And this matchup excited me because we don't often see this, weirdly enough. This might be one of the rare examples where I get to see two absolute top-level players clashing with Mongols versus Japanese, because right now in competitive play, Mongols is a top-tier ban, probably the most banned civ of the last few tournaments. And the reason is because we're in the middle of an entirely new meta. We've just added two entirely new civs, 4 variant civs that play very differently, new maps as well. That means Mongols get to party. Why? Because whenever you add new things to a game, the winners in the early days of the meta, the ones that are the meta setters, are usually the aggressors. And no civ comes more aggressive than Mongols. I think that's fair to say that these really are the kings of aggro play. So for that reason, we really didn't see any Mongol games. I think maybe 5 or 6 across the entire last S-tier tournament combined, simply because they were banned so frequently. And the reason they are banned is because when you go for these new mutations, right, new civs, new maps, no one knows what to do or how to counter plays. It's always advantageous to be the aggro. Because if you are setting the pace, if you're attacking, your opponent has to react. And the cool thing about that is that they don't know how to react, they're going to fall flat on their ass. I was just saying in the chat before we hopped into this, as to why Mongols, when the game first came out, other than things like obviously the TC rush and the outpost rush, in general, even when those got tweaked and fixed, Mongols remained incredibly dominant. It's because they were a civ that got to dictate pace. You had to react to them. And that's always an advantage to have. Whenever you can force your opponent to be the reactor, it means you're always the one leading the dance. So let's set up the prediction for people. As we are only a few minutes in the game, it's a perfect time for people watching on Twitch to be able to predict. Predictions are a go. Let's see who you guys are rooting for. Japanese versus Mongols is an interesting one because this is a water hybrid map. Canal is a map where both of these civs can actually thrive for different reasons. The Japanese is all about this fast boom of fishing boats at a discount. Only 45 wood each to get a fast tech up timing. But I love what we're seeing out of Lucifron. He's making sure that that's not going to easily come to pass. Spearman marching out. Now, Demu did go for a more defensive dock, and I appreciate that. I think you have to. If you come a bit too far out, if he'd waited a bit longer, he would have been in deep trouble here. But I love the reactions by Lucifron. Now going in with the outpost to try and block off from the other side of the river to make sure there's no troops, no villages being pulled to deny him. Pretty cool read here. And Demu, he's going to get some fish in the meantime, but keep in mind he's made a 150 wood investment here. This could actually payday 50 resources back to Lucifron as well, which is a problem. And also, because he's brought this villager out here to build this outpost, I imagine Lucifron is also intending to build a dock because he brought 2 villagers out here. Interesting read. Meanwhile, the outpost from Demu was much more defensive on his own goal just to make sure he can get his tech up. He almost has what he needs. I imagine we are still going to be looking at a Koka Township just because it's so strong on these type of maps. It means actually with Koka Township and Shinobi play, you could still potentially deny any aggro dock from functioning. And Lucifron, is he going in for the... Okay, for a second I thought that was a villager. I don't know. It's because he hasn't got his weapon out, right? Because he's in torch mode. It's like, where's that villager going? It's just the 3rd spearman. 2 more coming in. So dock is definitely eventually going to go down. But this play will have paid for itself for Demu. And remember that he can still pull these fishing boats away before they get burnt down. Wait, what? It's not Koka. Now, either he's on Cocaina or Demu has something very specific in mind. This is interesting. I did not see this coming. Now, it's a bit dangerous what he's done here, folks. Because Demu just built the Kura storehouse probably in the one location where it can get burned. And I don't mean the Kura storehouse, I mean the farms. And if Lucifron realizes this, he's immediately going to get paid 50 resources for you teching up. We'll see if that happens, but I genuinely think I'd be very surprised if Lucifron doesn't notice this. The TC placement, this first farm's going to spawn here, I think, unless the river blocks it. There. So now, Lucifron sees this. Now that he's done with the dock, if he just moves across, that's a free 50 resources and also food denied. And yeah, he even shoots it once to make sure it cannot be denied. So great read there by Lucifron. Bit dangerous with Demu's placement there. I think maybe if he brought this, and I know people don't want to do it because you miss out on some farms. If he brought this right next to the TC would have protected this. But now the spears get to pay for themselves. And guys, it's even worse. You want to know why it's even worse? You're not going to like this. It's going to plant more rice fields in 10 seconds. And there's no toggle off button, which means he's going to place another farm right there. Oh, no. There's no way Lucifron doesn't come back, right? Come on. Lucy, come on. There we go. Hey, we call it a farm for a reason. It's time to farm. Oh, man. This is harsh. This is the type of play where, like, you just do it, and then you kind of, your brain processes it, and then you out loud just say, I don't know why I've done that. So that farm's now going to be gone. Now, in fairness to Demu, this is an unknown quantity, right? Like, when do you often see this happen? This is such a rare occurrence, but it's the type of thing that after you've done it once, you never do this again. Oh, it's an unfortunate one. So another farm goes down. Because guess what, folks? In 8 seconds, another farm is coming up. I think Lucifron should hang around with these spears. It's worth it. I mean, there's an archer ship coming, but you could burn down another farm here. Oh, that is so harsh, man. That is so incredibly cruel. Behind this as well, by the way, while you're dealing with your own bases issues, keep in mind this was a Silver Tree opening, so Lucifron is going to be scaling into trade. And he also has the Springald ship out, which forces the cancel. And guess what, folks? Springald ship, that can burn down the farms if he wants. Oh my god, he's going for it. Oh, this is so BS. Well, so far, Lucifron has almost made a third of what this landmark cost. And that's going to be another rice field in 6 seconds. Khan is going to get sniped as the Springald ship comes out. Spinman also did not keep running. That's a bit weird. That felt like some weird misrally there. So at least this farm is going to live longer than its brother, sister, and mother. But I'm still not sure it's safe, folks. Oh my good god. This might be one of the most painful openings to Canal I've ever watched. And I'm not exaggerating. Like, we've seen some fast games, but like this feels slow, painful. But there's almost this air of inevitability and you know what's happened and what's happening behind it. But Demu, the brave, will try to find a way out. Food and gold is being gathered. He's heading for Castle Age as quickly as possible. And this was the right choice, by the way, to build these ships to defend, because if he didn't do this, he would have lost even more farms. This would just been a farm fiesta for Lucifron. So instead, that's going to at least try to shrink the losses a bit. But you can see that Lucifron is posturing here. He's got one of each. If you can get that hit with the explosive junk, significant damage can be done. Love the fact that Demu is now realizing not only does he now allow the farms to start fleshing out, he can also now gather from them because he has a defense force. So great read there. Lucy has also stopped producing units though. So it looks like we might be heading towards a double castle here. Which would be a bit surprising. Nice arrow placement as well. Love that detail from Demu. So this is almost just unbreachable now. And thank God he got that out, folks. If he didn't have the foresight to put a dock on this defensive lake here, game would already be over. But now it keeps him alive. Lucifron behind this is most definitely looking for a tech up, right? He's just not adding in any extra units at all. Not even extra traders right now. Problem with trade is it takes a while to return its value, right? So the only time I think it would be worthwhile is the double trade. I imagine at this stage, Lucifron is planning to save that resource for maybe a men-at-arms spam. Bit dangerous up against the Japanese, considering the flexibility they have with the floating gate, right? Because they can drop that Yorishiro in either racks or stables. So might be that he wants to consider dropping a stable, because Lancers will have more flexi here. And wow, a second TC on top of the floating gate. This is a pretty cool build by Demu. I wasn't expecting the second TC, but it makes a lot of sense when you consider all the gold he's been gathering, because he went into the Springald ship, the junk. He's getting that extra stone as gold, right? Gold as stone. Yes, that's the right way around. Because you get 20% of one as the other. So he's put enough together to get that second TC. Usually at this point in the game, you have two choices. You're either able to afford the level 2 Daimyo, or level 1 rather, daimyo, should we say, or you're able to afford a second TC. But I like this play because it's going to allow him to surge out. He has been actively gathering stone down here as well, which means he can still go for the daimyo, which I think is a very good idea because it allows you to get the stable play going and pump the Uma Bannerman out in 5 seconds. I think we will be looking at stable play here. Just try and play wide. There's no way you try to dent this outpost spam coming out from Lucifron. This is just food that he's going to have that you kind of have to accept. One thing that might be a bit scary for Demu is the area he has to work with for farms, but I think he's done a really good job of laying his base out in a way that he doesn't block himself out. The Kura storehouse has full surrounds. He's got safety around the primary TC to build up farms here, especially when the lumber camp's removed. And then this second TC with the Daimyo Manor upgrade can also have additional farms. Little bit surprised he did upgrade the second TC though, mainly because his farms are in range of the primary first. So I thought he might try to prior that, but considering the stone he's gathering, this could just be a double daimyo upgrade to get that 25% increased gathering rate on both. Lucifron a little bit slow on his deck up, but he's now rushing up on the gold. That happens though. When you build this many fishing boats, you're going to be slower in your tech time, and that's expected. The worry, though, is that you are doing this against a civ that has a very aggressive tech timing. You have to remember that the way that the Yorishiros function creates this pseudo-Burgrave effect, right? Just better because you have more flexibility than the HRE do. This is going to be a Rax version here. Going to drop it straight away. Love that, by the way. That's a cool little detail, little tip there. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, you have to rally point. If you rally point your floating gate, when it techs up, it'll dictate which side the Shinto priest comes out. I think there used to be a time where you couldn't. That might be in the early days, though. But if you set a rally point, not only will your Shinto priest come out the right side with the Yorishiro, you can also make him auto-drop off. So he immediately gets the racks going, and immediately starts moving out now with the Shinto priest to look on the flanks, but that's going to be difficult. Lucifron is already parked here with Lances. He understands that because he's slow on the tech timing, it's because Demu has built nothing to defend himself. And this first Shinto priest going down can be a big deal. And he's most definitely a freebie. So no pull away quick enough, Demu. Losing this first religious unit. No opportunity to pick up relics for free. And also scaling into this Naginata wielding Onobugisha. They're not very good against heavily armored units, of which Keshik most definitely are. So might be more worthwhile going into, I'd say, either the Samurai or the Spearman. I think the issue for Spearman for him is he has very limited wood in this corner, and he wants it all for the farms. Cool to see the way we've pulled out of the early game, by the way. And this is one of the interesting things I want to highlight, is that right now, you know, I've often seen, especially when we see Canal played in competitive, people being like, oh, I hate this map, oh, it's over in 10 minutes, GG, well, what is this? We're 12 minutes into the game. This game looked like it should have been over at 7 minutes, if that. But Demu's found a way of clawing his way out, right? He found a secondary plan, a backup option here. And he's done a really good job of starting to get back in this game. Now, Lucifron does have a very strong 5-6 extra minutes ahead of him after this. But once we move past that point, once those farms are fully online, that's when the scariness of the Japanese economy in that mid-game starts to unlock. We just have to see if Demu can get to that. Because we have got a very powerful timing on the horizon for Lucifron. Castle Age on the way. It's going to be the Kurultai, which means big damage buffs for those fights. Onobugisha numbers are building in the meantime. If he takes the fight now with the Keshiks, it's going to be a complete wipe. Because you're not even reducing half the damage this unit does, and it attacks twice the speed, right? So not a great engagement for Lucy to have to go into. If you can pick reinforcements, is a bit better with the lance charges. And great read there, actually. Pulling away from the main army works out quite nicely for him. Does a little bit of damage. Peels off just in time. You have to be very careful up against the Onobugisha, just so naturally fast with a 1.81 charge speed here. Good lord. See, I don't know. I actually personally like Canal. I see what chat's saying, but I actually think Canal's a very great addition to the map pool. We need more maps like this because I genuinely think one of the negatives that you can get out of some of the traditional maps on AO4 is they're too easy to turtle in. I know some people want to play a turtle playstyle like that, but genuinely, I'm a big believer that if you want to get the big value, you should have to play out to it, right? Maps that are designed in a way that there's value in the mid-map, I'm a very big fan of. It kind of reminds me of like StarCraft 2 had this really cool idea that they started implementing years ago around the gold mineral base, right? Which were better gathering rate ones, but they were in the center. So if you want the better value, you had to play out of the map. That's something that Canal does really well from a design perspective, and because you have such little wood, you have to come out. That's, I think, the big #1 thing I love about Canal that I think other maps have suffered with is just too much wood. It makes it way too easy to flex and do everything without even ever coming out. Demu is now coming out in force. He's on a Bugisha. I mean, they can burn down these outposts. They can shut down this trade. Lucifron right now is going to try to go for a dive into the base. Looks like the post did get sunk in the end, so great micro there by Lucifron to find the snipes. And now the Keshiks are going to be unleashed, but if you're on a Bugisha, the TC defenses, it's just not an area Lucy wants to dive into, especially considering he still does not have the ranged upgrades. Yeah, no undermesh. In fact, I think I've done that whoopsie where I press a button that hides the text, and I always forget which button that is. Found it. Is it R? It's R. Yeah, so he actually, interestingly enough, Lucifron went for the level 2 range damage because he's transitioning archers. A little bit surprised he did not prioritize undermesh here if his goal was to eventually dive, but in fairness to him, he's up against these melee units. Best thing he can do is get the melee tech defense, because remember, Onabugisha have very high attack speed, but low base damage. Great mirroring to block him out here. Cruelty just makes it very difficult for Demu to even try and wiggle in for trades. But speaking of that trade, it has been shut down on both flanks here. Great moves. Demu with a lot of mid-map control. This is what I love about Onabugisha, is this is a two-legged cavalry unit. It's so effective at raiding. Like, you know, this is kind of like your Castle Age variant of what you see from Zhuji later in the game when they get Yuan Raiders, right? It's that type of unit. It has a pretty cool place in the meta. However, when it's up against heavily armored units like this, it will look underpowered. As it should. So nice little cleanup there. Lucifron, this is really what he needs to do. Just needs to find these pocket groups of Onabugisha, cut them off, cut them down, and then start to kind of stem the tide. Because then he'll continue to escalate his own number of Keshiks while keeping this number low. And it reaches that critical point where when you do force that big engagement that Demu can't ignore, he doesn't have anything to counter you. So right now, he hasn't even upgraded the Spearman in prep for that. It also does feel weird to have to do this, right? Like, you're up against archers, and you're still going on a Bugisha, but it totally makes sense from Demu's perspective. He wants to try and draw all attention back to Lucifron's base, so he can start to pick up these relics, but Lucy, too smart of a cookie. He's not going to fall for it that easily. Archers moving forward, Keshiks as well. Forward line of Onabugisha are going to get cleared up, the last of them falling here. We'll at least be able to find a few villages for his troubles, but Demu has a big problem on the horizon. Militarily, he's heavily outnumbered, quality and quantity. Marching commences. Only a small outpost, not fortified here to guard. Demu gonna get dove. Second wave of Onabugisha ready to fight, though. Keshiks are going to charge forward for this. It's a clash beyond the tower, but the archers are not joining in right now. They're actually attacking onto the outpost. Really feels like he needs to get this burnt down. So there we go. We'll turn around for it now. Ships are going to move upriver. It's like Demu is trying to build into more to defend himself here. Wants to get the archer ships. Clash comes out. Kurultai is on the way, though. And I believe that was the attack speed arrow coming out. So there's going to be a big juicer here for Lucifron. Pack-out comes through in 2 more seconds. Boom ship through, but the war junk stays alive. Temporarily, however, as it is going to be sunk. And now it looks like Demu is going to be sunk alongside it. Onabugisha numbers are shrinking fast. The healer a bit too effective. And that's a complete army loss. And behind this, Demu not with much to defend himself with. Archer ship getting baited deep far out here just to try and trade out inefficiently. Remember, that light junk is also getting its damage buffed up to 10 per shot. And this game looks all but over. You know, this is actually the first time I've seen the Kurultai used well with a light junk there, just to get that little trade out. But it really makes the difference here. The timing on that was perfect. And you know what really solved this fight? Lucifron understood the importance of the movement speed and the unpack speed of the Kurultai. He took that tech, he made sure it was a priority, and now he takes complete control of the game. Demo ships coming through to make sure there is no escape. Villages also getting massacred alongside it. And Demu, even with the 2 TC play, now finds himself 10 eco units behind. Not much of a base left to defend with. This outpost isn't going to last long after that. Farms are just being left vacant. A difficult game now for Demu to recover. Also, mass melee means this little boy here, with his finger on the detonator, holds the entire fight hostage. As I mentioned, we've got all the Urashiras on one screen here, folks. So that could just be heavy losses. Urashiras really make or break the Japanese in this early Castle Age. And the Kurultai finds the perfect spot to unpack for a party. You know, I haven't seen it, but I'm pretty sure the Kurultai works with explosive damages on the junks, right? Oh my god, it does. Not that it's going to matter. This fight is never even going to reach there. That looks to be it. I don't see a way back anymore for Demu. The Kurultai parked here is just going to hold him hostage. He doesn't even need the demo ship for the flashy finish. Instead, it's going to be clean and simple. GG comes out. Lucifron showing you exactly why the Mongols are so consistently banned in competitive play. Ooh, man, for good reason. If you haven't already, by the way, check both these guys out. They do stream, so follow them. If you want to catch their perspectives as they clash and see the entire picture, be sure to be following me on my Twitch as well. But this, guys, I mean, let me know what you think about the Mongols right now. I know some people with questions around it when we done the EGC finals about why it's getting banned so much. Has this answered that question for you? Has this said enough? Or is this just all Lucifron being an absolute Chad?